my mom said. We're being responsible this year. No vacations. I agreed. Until I got a charge alert, $6,200 on my card, booked in Santorini. I didn't argue. I just reversed everything. Flights voided. Hotel flagged. Spa appointment cancelled. The morning they arrived at the airport, my phone lit up. Why did you sabotage us? I replied. Why did you lie? Then I blocked the group chat. The next day at 7 a.m., they were at my door. After that morning, they were no longer my family. Not in any way that mattered. There wasn't a dramatic fight, no screaming match that tore us apart. It was quieter than that. A slow building rot that finally collapsed in on itself the moment I realized how long they'd been using me and how naturally they lied about it. It started on a rainy Sunday in January. I was visiting my parents for dinner, the usual tired casserole and awkward small talk while my niece watched cartoons way too loud in the living room. At one point, my mom looked over and said, We're being responsible this year. No vacations. Too much going on. She said it like it was a group decision. Dad nodded. Rachel chimed in, saying she'd already canceled a girls' weekend she'd been planning. I almost laughed. They'd never been responsible about anything. Rachel especially. She still hasn't held a steady job since her second kid, unless you count the Instagram boutique that sold knockoff yoga pants for 3 weeks. Most days she dropped the kids off with a neighbor or one of her flaky friends so she could clear her head. Meanwhile, my parents acted like she was doing her best, like she wasn't leaving a 5-year-old and a toddler in random people's living rooms for hours. Still, I took them at their word. No vacations. Fine by me. I'd spent the last 2 years covering everything from my dad's dental work to Rachel's rent when her stimulus money dried up. A quiet year sounded like a miracle. 3 weeks later, I was working late when my phone buzzed. Charge alert. $6,247.63. My stomach sank before I even opened it. The merchant was something called Azure Skies Travel in Santorini, Greece. At first, I thought it was fraud. But the details were too familiar. 5 airline tickets. Luxury resort. Spa packages. Airport transfer. Names attached: Margaret, Daniel, Rachel, and Rachel's kids. My mom, my dad, my sister, and her children. All booked on my card. My card. I didn't call them. I didn't scream. I didn't even text. I just canceled everything. The travel agency hadn't finalized the tickets yet, so I got them voided. The hotel was flagged and frozen. I contacted the spa and told them the reservation was part of an unauthorized charge. Every piece of the trip collapsed in under an hour. I didn't care about the money anymore. I cared that they thought they could take it without asking. That they thought I'd just roll over like always. The morning they were supposed to leave, my phone started blowing up before sunrise. They'd already packed. Already gotten to the airport. That's when they saw the cancellations. Why did you sabotage us? You've gone too far this time. Do you know what this did to the kids? This is so petty. I stared at the messages like they were written in another language. Why did you lie? I replied. Then I blocked the group chat. That should have been the end of it. But at 7 a.m. the next morning, I heard a knock. I looked out the window and there they were. My parents and Rachel, standing on my porch like this was some sort of intervention. Dad was already halfway through a guilt speech about how hard retirement is. Rachel tried to spin it like I was being cruel to the kids. My mom looked like she wanted me to say I was sorry. I didn't say a word. I shut the door and locked it. What they didn't get was that I wasn't angry in the way they expected. I wasn't throwing a tantrum or holding a grudge. I was done. Completely. After everything I'd given them, they repaid me with lies and theft. And when I called them out, they acted like I was the one who betrayed them. They didn't know it yet, but the cost of that trip wasn't $6,200. It was everything. They were about to find out just how much they'd relied on me. And what it felt like to lose that. After I closed the door on them that morning, they stood there like they still had a say in anything. I didn't watch them leave. I didn't need to. That door between us was the first real boundary I'd ever drawn. And it held. Inside, I opened my laptop and started cutting the ropes one by one. First was my bank. I had a long call with fraud services, removed every single authorized user from my credit accounts, and changed every password I'd ever given out or stupidly reused. My mom still had access to an old card I opened during college when she needed help with just a few groceries. I shut it down completely. Then I flagged my trust account, the one they didn't know I had full control over now. Locked. Internal access only. No more accidental transfers, no more weaseling through shared family logins. Next was the autopay trail. Rachel's phone bill? Gone. My dad's insurance top-off? Cancelled. My mom's, occasional, Amazon Prime orders, which had become a parade of useless kitchen gadgets and skincare subscriptions. Deleted and revoked. I even killed their Netflix profile, which I'd let them use for years. I didn't leave a single line open. Not one. And for the first time in years, I felt clean. 2 days passed. Nothing. I thought maybe they got the message. But then Rachel posted a cryptic status on Facebook. Imagine giving everything to someone who turns out to be cold-blooded. Lesson learned. Under it, a stock photo of a beach. Probably Santorini. My mom commented, "Some people forget who fed them." I didn't respond. Not there. Not anywhere. But I kept getting messages. First from Rachel's new number. She wrote, "You overreacted. It was one trip. We just wanted something for us for once. And you could have just said no." I didn't reply. Later that night, another message came through. "The kids are asking why Uncle Andrew hates them now." That one sat with me longer. But I still didn't answer. Then the voicemail. My dad. His voice was calm, like he was trying a new tactic. He said they were just tired. That retirement wasn't what they thought it'd be. That life was hard and they thought maybe they deserved a little something after everything they'd been through. "You don't know what it's like to have nothing," he said. "You've always had it easy." I had to laugh. Easy? I paid my way through college while working 2 jobs. I turned down vacations and skipped weekends so I could make enough to pay off their debt. I watched them pretend like they were struggling while taking in every handout I gave and still asking for more. They had no idea what sacrifice was. Because they never had to make one. I made them all for them. The next day Rachel called again. She sounded frantic. Her rent was overdue and the landlord had posted a notice on her door. She asked me for just this one time. Help, half the rent, maybe a little more. Said she had nowhere else to go, and the kids would have to sleep in her car. I told her, flat out, "I can't help you." She went quiet, then asked, "You're really gonna do this to your niece and nephew?" I answered, "No. I'm doing this to you." Then I hung up. That night, I got another knock. Just one this time. My dad. He looked tired, but not in a way that made me feel anything. He didn't say hello. Just stared at me like he was still the one who held power here. "You think you're punishing us," he said, "but you're really just punishing yourself. You're isolating yourself." I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Before he left, he added, "You're not family anymore either." And I stood there, not even flinching, as he walked away. What none of them understood, what they never grasped, was that I'd been holding this entire family up by myself. And now that I'd stepped away, they were free-falling. Let them. I wasn't done watching them learn just how far down they had to go without me. The silence lasted 3 days. Then everything started crumbling at once. Rachel was first. I heard from a mutual acquaintance, a guy I used to work with who lived in her apartment complex. He texted me randomly. "Hey, just a heads up. Saw your sister screaming at her landlord in the parking lot. Cops were there. Looked bad." I didn't reply. Later that night, I got an email from Rachel. She didn't bother with pleasantries. Just subject line. "You're ruining us." She said she and the kids had been staying in her friend's studio, a friend who apparently didn't know what having 2 kids under 10 in a 400 square foot apartment really meant. She said I was being cruel just to prove a point. And that it was. Only money. Only money. That line stuck with me. The next morning, my mom called from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't yell. She cried. Said she couldn't believe I'd let this happen. That she and Dad were behind on utilities and had to borrow money from their church to cover medication. "What happened to your heart?" she asked. What happened was simple. They made me choose between being part of their world or finally being free. And I chose myself. By the end of the week, I started getting calls from numbers I didn't know. Old family friends. Distant cousins. People I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly wanted to check in. A woman named Linda, who I vaguely remembered from Thanksgiving 2015, called to tell me my mom was really struggling, and I should remember where I come from. I hung up on all of them. I thought about blocking more numbers, but then I realized something. I didn't need to. I wanted them to see that nothing they tried was working anymore. That the tools they used, guilt, shame, third-party pressure, were dull now. Useless. A week later, my mom showed up again. She didn't knock this time. Just left a handwritten letter in my mailbox. I read it once. It was dramatic. The kind of thing someone writes when they're still hoping for a reaction. She wrote that they'd made a mistake, but that I was making things worse than they ever needed to be. She said I'd lost my way, and that money had changed me. I put the letter in a drawer and didn't respond. Rachel stopped trying after that. I think reality finally hit her. That no one was coming to fix it. That all the friends she partied with didn't care enough to lend her money or give her a real place to stay. She texted once more, short and cold. Fine. I get it. That was the last I heard from her for a while. My dad didn't contact me again for almost a month. Then one night, I saw his name on my phone. Just his first name, because I deleted the contact. I let it ring. He left a voicemail. Just wanted you to know, he said. Your mom's seeing a therapist. We're figuring things out. You were right about a lot of things. Hope you're okay. I played the message twice. Not because I needed to hear it, but because it was the first time he didn't sound like he was trying to win. They were beginning to understand something they should have years ago. I wasn't just the one who bailed them out. I was the one holding the entire structure up. And now they were learning what life looked like without me. Brick by brick, everything they leaned on was gone. And I was still standing. A few weeks went by without a word. The silence didn't feel like peace at first, more like the air before a storm, stretched too thin. But still, no messages. No knocks. No surprise visits. For the first time in years, my phone didn't feel like a grenade. Then one Thursday afternoon, my assistant buzzed my office. There's a woman here asking for you. She says she's your mother. I froze. She had never come to my job before. I walked to the lobby and there she was, standing awkwardly next to a planter, trying to look composed in a borrowed-looking blazer and flats she clearly wasn't used to wearing. She didn't ask to come in. She just said, I wanted to say something to your face. I waited. She said they weren't okay. That things had fallen apart more than I probably knew. That she took a part-time job at a bakery. That Rachel was working too. That she understood why I did what I did. Then she looked down at her hands and added, We never saw you as the one carrying everything. And that was our failure. Then she left. No plea. No tears. No mention of money. That night, I found a card slid under my front door. It was from her. A short note. She said the work was hard, but she didn't mind. Said she liked being around people again. She said she hoped one day I'd visit her at the bakery, even just once. I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't trust it, not yet. But something about it felt different. Then came Rachel. She texted late one night, long after I thought she'd given up. Said she found work in a call center. Minimum wage, rough hours, but she said she wasn't asking for anything, just wanted me to know she was doing it. Said she'd enrolled the kids in a subsidized childcare program. Then she wrote, It's not your job anymore. I get that now. I reread that line 3 times. But just when I thought things might be shifting, I got a call from my bank's fraud team. Someone had tried to gain access to my trust account. It wasn't Rachel. It wasn't my mom. It was my dad. He used the name of an old financial advisor we all once knew, someone who helped manage their accounts before I took over the books. He called pretending to represent me, giving partial credentials, asking for simple clarification on access rights. The only reason I knew it was him was because he used an old passphrase he'd heard me say once, back when I still shared things with him. The bank flagged the attempt and froze the account just to be safe. Nothing got through. But the fact that he tried, quietly and behind everyone's back, undid every inch of progress they'd claimed. I didn't text. I didn't call. I drove to their house. My mom answered the door looking exhausted. I could tell she thought maybe I'd come to talk, maybe to reconcile. But when I asked where my dad was, her face changed. She knew. He was in the living room, acting like nothing had happened. I asked him directly, "Did you try to access the trust?" He didn't deny it. He said, "I didn't think you'd find out. I just wanted to check if you were okay." That lie didn't even make it past his own voice. I looked at both of them and told them clearly, without raising my voice, the money was gone. Not literally, but for them, it no longer existed. There would never be another cent. No soft-hearted reconsideration. No temporary help. They had burned it. My mom tried to explain. Said she didn't know. That she thought he was done with all of that. But I didn't stay. I walked out before it turned into a speech. I spent the drive home thinking about what it meant to be free from your own family. Not angry. Just done. That night, Rachel sent a single message. "I didn't know he tried that. I'm not part of it. Please don't shut me out again." I didn't reply. Not yet. Because if they wanted to earn anything back, they were going to have to keep surviving without me. Really survive. No begging. No shortcuts. And if they didn't? I wasn't going to stop them. I'd already let them fall. Watching them stay down wasn't cruelty. It was just gravity finally catching up. They stopped calling after that. My dad especially. Whatever lie he was telling himself about still having some grip on my life, that broke the night I told him the money was gone. My mom sent one more card about a week later. No note inside. Just a bakery business card with her schedule scribbled on the back. I didn't throw it away. But I didn't use it either. Rachel was the only one who kept a small thread of contact. Never asking for anything, never fishing. Just quiet updates now and then. That she was still working. That the kids were okay. That she'd applied for a subsidized apartment across town. I never answered. I just read them and moved on. And maybe that was enough for her. By then, the trust was locked so tight no one could so much as breathe near it without setting off alarms. I moved some assets around, tightened the accounts, even sold off a couple of the shared investments I once opened with my dad to teach him about long-term planning. Every dollar I earned from that went into a separate account under a different name. Out of reach. Not because I needed to, but because it felt like finally sealing a door shut. A month later, I got a call I didn't expect. It was from a man named Malcolm, an old friend of my dad's I hadn't seen since I was a teenager. He said he ran into my mom at church. Said she told him everything had fallen apart, and that they were trying to make things right. He asked me to give them a chance to explain. I almost hung up. But then he said something that stuck. She said they don't need your money. They just want to matter to you again. That line sat in my head longer than I liked. Around the same time, Rachel texted me a photo. It was of a printed flyer on a community center wall. Budgeting Basics free class, with her name at the bottom as a volunteer assistant. She didn't say anything with it. No caption. Just the image. I didn't respond. But I didn't delete it either. A few weeks passed. I was out running errands when I pulled into a parking lot and saw something that made me stop cold. My dad, standing outside a public library, handing out flyers for something. I didn't know what at first. I watched from the car. It was for a job fair. Sponsored by the city. He wasn't working it, just volunteering. Talking to people. Telling them which tables to go to. Laughing, awkwardly. Looking smaller. Like a man who knew he had nothing left to cash in on. I didn't speak to him. I didn't walk over. But I drove away slower than I meant to. Later that night, my mom sent another card. Inside was a photo of her at the bakery, holding a tray of pastries, smiling for what looked like a company website. She wrote, "I hope you're proud of us, even a little. I know we didn't deserve it." And I realized something I hadn't expected. I was proud. Not because they were succeeding, but because they were failing forward, without me. They weren't better people yet. Not fully. They weren't healed. They weren't trustworthy. But for the first time, they weren't lying to themselves. And that, more than anything, might have been what I needed to see. Still, I wasn't ready to give them access again. Not to me, and definitely not to my trust. That account wasn't just money anymore. It was everything they'd used me for, everything I'd had to claw back. But they didn't know it yet. I had one more thing to do. One more boundary to set. And then maybe, just maybe, I'd offer them something close to a last chance. 3 months had passed since I'd cut them off completely. Long enough for them to learn how to live without me, and for me to find out who they were when there was nothing left to take. Rachel had kept sending the occasional text. Always simple. Never pushing. One day it was just a picture of the kids helping fold laundry. Another time, a blurry photo of a budget spreadsheet she was proud of, as if that was her version of climbing Everest. I never replied, but I read every word. My mom had stopped sending cards. I figured she'd given up. But then one morning, a plain envelope arrived with no return address. Inside, a short letter, 5 lines. All it said was, "We can't fix what we broke. But we're not pretending anymore. That's something. If you ever want to sit across the table with us, we'll show up. No strings." I didn't call. I didn't write back. But I thought about it. A lot. That same week, I got an email from my attorney. He said there had been another inquiry into the trust account. Not fraudulent this time, just a legal question submitted through a third party. Anonymous. But obvious. They were trying to find out if the door was open again. That's what made up my mind. I set a meeting. A neutral place. Saturday afternoon, quiet cafe near the edge of the city. I texted Rachel the time and address. Said she could bring the kids if she wanted, or not at all. She didn't answer, just hit the little thumbs up on the message. When I walked in, they were already there. My mom, Rachel, and my dad. No kids. That surprised me. They looked tired. But not pitiful. They didn't try to hug me, didn't rush to speak. Just sat in silence until I sat down. I laid it out immediately. I told them I saw the changes. That I noticed they were surviving, working, showing up, making it work without leaning on me. Then I said the one thing they probably didn't expect. "I'm giving you one last chance." Their faces changed, but I kept going. "But it's not money. It's not access. There's no password. No fund. No support account." I told them the trust was sealed. Permanently. They would never see a dime from it again. Not now. Not ever. They didn't argue. Not even my dad. That was the biggest shock of all. Instead, he said, "Okay. Just that. Nothing else." We sat there in silence for a while. Then Rachel asked if we could do this again sometime. Not a handout. Just lunch. I nodded once. That was all I could give her. As I stood to leave, my mom reached into her bag and handed me a photo. It was old. I hadn't seen it in years. Me at 12, sitting at the table with a toy calculator and a fake bank ledger I used to play with. She smiled and said, "You were always the one who knew how to hold it together." I took it. I didn't smile. I didn't speak. But I didn't throw it away either. As I walked out, I realized they finally understood something I'd stopped hoping they would. I wasn't just the one who gave. I was the only one who ever knew what it cost. And this cautious, quiet distance, it was the best we were ever going to get. And for once, that was enough. It's been nearly a year since all of this started. There's nothing dramatic left to say. Things are stable now. Not warm. Not close. Just stable. Rachel kept her job. She moved into the subsidized apartment a few months after our last meeting. She still texts once in a while. Usually photos of the kids, or short updates about work. I still don't reply. But I look. And I think she gets that that's the most I'm willing to give. My mom still works at the bakery. Last I heard, she picked up more shifts. I haven't visited, and she's never asked me to. She hasn't tried to talk about the past. I think she knows it wouldn't change anything now. My dad hasn't contacted me at all since the last time we sat across from each other at that cafe. He didn't apologize again. Didn't try to explain anything. He just accepted what was said. That the money was never coming back, and that I was no longer someone he could manipulate. That silence has been the biggest piece of all. There have been no new requests. No emergencies. No one last favors. For the first time in my adult life, no one's leaning on me. The trust account is still there. Untouched. Fully locked. I check it once a month, just to remind myself what boundaries look like when they're respected. We're not a family anymore, not in the way we used to be. And I'm fine with that. What exists now is something simpler. They live their lives. I live mine. We nod across a distance that none of us are trying to close anymore. And that, finally, is enough. Sometimes I run into people who used to know all of us, back when we still played the part of a normal family. They ask how everyone's doing. I just say, "They're fine," and change the subject. I don't owe anyone the full story. Most wouldn't believe it anyway. Every now and then, I think about reaching out, a text maybe, or just showing up at that bakery once. But the moment passes. Because the truth is, I don't miss the version of them that used to be in my life. I miss the version I wish they could be. And I've accepted they were never that. People always say family is everything. Maybe for some it is. But for me, cutting them off wasn't a loss. It was a beginning.